Only be honest, what's the strangest thing you've ever seen that no one believed? Last summer, my boyfriend and I decided to take a late-night walk to an old amusement park on the edge of our town. It's one of those places locals still visit out of nostalgia, half romantic, half eerie after dark. Behind the park, there's a steep hillside trail that leads down into a forested ravine. People call it the Switchback Trail, a narrow paved path zigzagging between sharp slopes, with railings, chain-link fencing, scattered benches, and dim streetlights that barely cut through the darkness. The place feels safe at first glance. Not abandoned. Not completely wild. Just poorly lit and strangely quiet. We were laughing, talking, enjoying the summer air, when my boyfriend suddenly slowed down. "Do you see that?" he whispered. On the side of the slope, half hidden among fallen leaves and dirt, there was something small. Something out of place. We stepped closer. At first, I thought it was trash, maybe a torn photo or a scrap of paper. But as we leaned in, my stomach tightened. My boyfriend reached out to pick it up. And in that exact moment, I realized what it was. A small photograph. A child's face. And it was pierced with several needles. My heart dropped. If you've grown up around stories about folk magic, curses, or dark rituals, you know what that usually means. In some cultures, it's believed to be a kind of hex, a planted curse meant to bring harm, illness, or misfortune to the person in the photo. Whether you believe in that or not, something about it felt deeply wrong. "Don't touch it," I said sharply, grabbing his wrist. The photo looked old and intentionally placed, not lost, not random. The needles were rusted. The paper was slightly warped, like it had been there longer than it should have been. The worst part. Neither of us recognized the child. And yet, standing there in that dim forest light, it felt like we had just stumbled into something we were never meant to see. We left it there. We didn't take pictures. We didn't tell anyone right away. Because how do you explain something like that without sounding insane? I grabbed my boyfriend's wrist so suddenly that he flinched. My fingers dug into his skin before he could even touch the object. He froze. His hand hovered in the air, just inches away from the photograph. The one with the child's face pierced by needles. And at that exact moment, a voice came from the slope below us. "Help me." It cut through the forest like a blade. We both turned at the same time. Night. Trees. A dim amusement park behind us. A narrow paved trail clinging to the side of a ravine. A steep, nearly vertical forested slope dropping into darkness. It was a weekday night, not a party night, not a holiday, not a time when people wander drunk or reckless. The park was quiet. The trail was empty. The woods felt still. And that was exactly what made it worse. The slope beneath us was physically impossible to stand on. It wasn't just steep, it was jagged, loose, layered with sliding dirt, roots, rocks, and tangled brush. If someone tried to climb down there, they would slide. If they tried to stand, they would fall. If they were injured, they wouldn't sound calm. There was no safe place for a person to be. And yet the voice sounded close. Not distant. Not echoing. Not muffled by trees. Close enough to reach us. My stomach dropped. "What the hell?" my boyfriend whispered. But what terrified me wasn't the situation. It was the voice itself. There was something wrong with it. It sounded too human, but in a way that felt artificial. Like an imitation of a human voice rather than the real thing. It was too clear. Too clean. Too perfectly articulated. No shaking. No panic. No breathlessness. No pain. When someone is scared, their voice trembles. When someone is hurt, their voice breaks. When someone is desperate, their voice cracks. But this voice, it was flat. Even. Controlled. Like it had been rehearsed. Like it had been recorded and played back. Like it was carefully shaped to sound vulnerable without actually being vulnerable. And beneath that calm tone, I felt something else. Not fear. Intent. A kind of awareness. A focus. A hunger. "Help me," the voice said again. Same tone. Same rhythm. Same unnatural stillness. It didn't sound like a person who had fallen. It sounded like a lure. The forest around us suddenly felt closer, like the trees were leaning in to listen. The insects went quiet. The air felt thicker. My pulse hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. Every instinct in my body screamed the same thing. Do not respond. Do not move closer. Do not engage. My boyfriend leaned forward slightly, squinting into the darkness. Do you see anyone? He whispered. I shook my head slowly. All I saw were black shapes of branches, tangled undergrowth, and a drop that disappeared into shadow. No movement. No silhouette. No shifting leaves. Just darkness. Then the voice came again. A little softer this time. A little slower. Please, help me. And I swear, it sounded closer. Not physically, but mentally. Like it was aimed directly at us. Not a cry into the void. A message. For us. My skin prickled. A cold, primitive terror crawled up my spine, the kind of fear humans must have felt thousands of years ago, standing at the edge of a fire while something unknown moved in the dark beyond it. This wasn't movie fear. This wasn't let's check it out fear. This was predator fear. The kind that says, you are being watched. You are being evaluated. You are prey. The voice wasn't pleading. It wasn't suffering. It felt like it was testing us. Waiting to see if we would step closer. Waiting to see if we would be foolish. My boyfriend whispered, barely audible. What if someone's hurt? But my mouth had already gone dry. Don't, I breathed. Something is wrong. And deep down, I knew it. That voice didn't belong to someone who needed saving. It belonged to something that wanted us to come closer. I'm writing this now, and I still have goosebumps. My hands are cold just remembering it. My boyfriend and I looked at each other, and we didn't even need to speak. The fear on his face matched exactly what I felt inside. I leaned closer to him and whispered, slowly and clearly, like giving battlefield instructions. We walk fast. We do not run. We do not turn around. No matter what happens. He nodded. I grabbed his hand, and he squeezed back hard. We turned away from the slope and started walking down the trail. The path stretched ahead of us, nearly a mile of darkness still left to go. A narrow paved walkway. Flickering streetlights spaced too far apart. The amusement park lights fading behind us. The forest thickening on both sides. Our footsteps sounded too loud. Our breathing sounded too fast. The only thing louder than both was our heartbeat. Our palms were so sweaty from fear that our clasped hands felt slick, like water was running between our fingers. I swear, the fear was so intense it felt like it was leaking out of our skin. We didn't speak. We didn't joke. We didn't even look at each other anymore. All our focus was on not turning around. Behind us, the forest wasn't silent anymore. Branches cracked. Leaves crunched. Something shifted in the undergrowth. Not steady footsteps. Not random animal noise. Not wind. It sounded like movement that was trying to stay quiet. But failing. Every few seconds. Another snap. Another rustle. Another soft disturbance in the darkness. Too close. Always just behind us. My mind kept screaming. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Because some instinct told me that if I turned around, something would already be there. At one point, we heard a sound that almost resembled a step on gravel. My boyfriend's grip tightened. His knuckles went white. I could feel his fear shaking through his arm. A sudden gust of wind moved through the trees, and for a split second, it carried something else with it. A breath. Or what sounded like one. Right behind us. Slow. Controlled. Close. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I wanted to run. Every muscle wanted to sprint. But I forced myself to keep walking. Fast. Controlled. Silent. Because running would mean panic. And panic would mean losing control. And losing control felt like exactly what it wanted. We kept walking. Step after step. The darkness felt endless. The trail felt longer than it ever had before. Time stretched, warped, slowed. Every few steps, another sound behind us. A twig snapping. A low shift in leaves. Something brushing against branches. A faint scrape, like something dragging slightly. At one point, I thought I heard a whisper. Not words. Just the suggestion of a voice. But I refused to process it. I refused to acknowledge it. Because acknowledging it felt like inviting it closer. Finally, after what felt like an hour, we saw brighter lights ahead. The edge of the trail. The first signs of civilization. The parking lot. The road. We didn't stop walking until we reached the open area. Only then did we finally turn around. There was nothing there. Just the empty trail. Dark trees. Silent forest. But the fear didn't disappear. It stuck. We both felt it. We both lived it. And when we tell this story, people believe us. Not because it sounds convincing, but because you can still see it on us. In the way we talk about it. In the way our voices tighten. In the way our hands shake. In the way we go quiet when we remember. Because this fear, it wasn't imagined. It wasn't exaggerated. It burned itself into us. And some nights, when it's very quiet, it still feels like something followed us home.